Hi, third grade. This is Miss Hostetler, and I will be teaching your writing lessons for the next 2 weeks while Mrs. Bodie teaches math and Mrs. Sexton teaches reading. So for the next couple of weeks, we're going to focus on the skills of revising and editing our writing. Revising and editing are really important parts of writing that you may have learned already in class, and we're just going to hone in on the certain skills and the certain parts of what it takes to revise and edit a paper. So you will revise and edit a journal entry from your pandemic journal. We've been writing in them for about a month now, so you should have plenty of entries to choose from. You're going to pick your favorite entry, one that you think that you could write more about and improve, and this will be the entry that you revise and edit over the next 2 weeks. So back to our topic of revising and editing. These are the last steps that you would do after you've written about something and you want to publish it. So you should have already planned and written your writing, and now it's time to take some steps towards revising and editing that paper to make it the absolute best that it can be for your reader. It's important to note that revising and editing are not the same thing, which is why this week we're just focusing on revising, and the next week we'll talk about editing. Some of you might be wondering, what does revising even mean? And it's actually pretty simple. Revising is basically just changing words or sentences that make your writing better. You have a picture in your mind as the author of this writing of what it was like to live in that moment that you're writing about. For example, if you go to the grocery store and it's really busy at the grocery store and you decide to write about that, you know what that experience was like because you lived it. But when you're writing, you have to explain what that experience was like in detail for your reader. You have to create a picture in their mind of what it was like to be at the grocery store because they weren't there with you. They don't know what it was like. So you have to change words or sentences to make your writing better and make it more interesting for the reader. So when you're thinking of revising, think of the word ARMS. So ARMS is an acronym, and an acronym is a word where each letter in the word stands for another word. So think ARMS when you're trying to remember what it means to revise a piece of writing. Today, we're just going to focus on the A in ARMS. Tomorrow, we're going to focus on R, Wednesday, M, and Thursday, S. But today, we're just thinking A in ARMS. I know that my class talked about ARMS a little bit before school got out. So if you're in my class, I want to challenge you to think about what the A might mean in ARMS. Some of you may already know that the A stands for adding. So the first part of revising a piece of writing is thinking about what you can add to make it better. You can add words, you could add sentences, or you could add details to your writing to make it more interesting. So we're going to break these 3 things down and what it looks like when we add words, sentences, and details to our writing to make it better. So I have taken an example sentence, and we're going to add a few words to it to make it better and more interesting. So my original sentence, which is in red right here, is "The store was slammed." So that's a fine sentence. It's not super interesting, but I'm curious. I want to know more. If I'm a reader, I'm wondering what type of store they're in. And how do they know that the store is slammed? So I want more details as the reader. So to give those details, I'm going to add more words to this sentence. So my new sentence says, "The grocery store, which is normally slow, was slammed." So I've added what type of store it is. It's a grocery store. It could have been a clothing store or a store where you buy crafts like Hobby Lobby. But no, it's a grocery store. So the grocery store was slammed, and I know that it's slammed because it's normally slow. So I added in those 4 words just to add some extra detail. Normally this place is slow, but for some reason today it's busy. It is slammed. So this new sentence is much more interesting to read than the red sentence. So that's an example of how you can add words to your writing to make it more detailed for the reader. Okay, the next thing you can add are sentences. So I don't want you to just add sentences willy-nilly. You need to add sentences where you feel like you should have described an event or a scene or somebody's feelings better and in more detail. So my red sentence is what I'm going to add to make it better. So it says, the grocery store, which is normally slow, was slammed. Then we went to the bank. Well, as a reader, I'm wondering, hey, I want to hear more about this grocery store. What was it like when you were at the grocery store? How did you know it was slammed? What were you feeling when you were in there? Who were you with? Because I say, then we went to the bank. Well, who were you with? I don't know, as the reader. So I'm going to add more sentences about my trip to the grocery store to sort of make this more interesting. So in the green here, I have added 2 more sentences about the grocery store. The grocery store, which is normally slow, was slammed. The aisles were so crowded with people that we couldn't even go down them with our cart. We had to leave it at the end of the aisle and grab what we needed without it. So in this paragraph, I'm describing what the aisles were like, how they were crowded with people, how I felt like I couldn't even fit down the aisle with my cart, and how we had to park the car at the end of the aisle and just grab what I needed from the aisle and carry it back to the cart. So these are things that as the writer, I know and I'm thinking of in my head while I'm writing. But it's important to get it out there and get it on paper so that the person who's going to read my writing is more entertained and that this picture that I'm painting is coming up clearly in their mind. So this is an example of how you can add sentences to your writing to make it better. Now, the last part to adding when you're revising your piece of writing is to add details. And to me, this is almost the most important thing to add because details are really what makes a piece of writing interesting to read. So when you're going through your writing, look for places where you can answer these 6 questions. And I'm sure you already know these questions. As soon as I start writing them, I know you're going to know. The first question is who, what, when, where, why, and you guessed it, how. When you are reading through your writing and you're looking for places where you can add details, ask yourself these 6 questions. Who is at the grocery store? What is it like at the grocery store? What do the aisles look like? What do the people look like? When was I at the grocery store? Where in the grocery store was I? Why was I at the grocery store? Or why was it busy? And how were people acting? Those are important questions that you can ask yourself while you're reading. And if you're able to answer them with details, you need to add those details into your writing because it's honestly really going to improve it. So this red paragraph is the paragraph from the last page, and then I have improved it by answering these 6 questions and adding details to my writing. So I'll reread this for you now after adding details. Kroger, which is normally slow, was slammed when we arrived at 5 p.m. The aisles were so crowded with bustling people that we couldn't even go down them with our bulky shopping cart. My mom and I had to leave it at the end of the aisle and quickly grab what we needed without it. So when I have underlined the details I added, instead of saying the grocery store, I said where specifically we were at and what grocery store that was. It was Kroger. Instead of just leaving it up to the reader to decide what time we were there, I added when we were at the store. We were there at 5 p.m. I added what type of people were there and how they were acting. So they were bustling people. Bustling is just a word to describe something is really busy. So these people were busy grabbing things and shopping at the grocery store. Then I described what type of shopping cart we had. Well, we had a bulky shopping cart. Maybe the shopping cart wouldn't have felt bulky if the aisles weren't so crowded. But in that moment, I remember feeling like this shopping cart is huge. I cannot maneuver it down this aisle with all of these bustling people. Then I answered the question of who. Who is at the grocery store? I still hadn't said it in the last paragraph. Now I've said that it's my mom and I. So we had to leave our cart at the end of the aisle And how did we grab those items? We quickly grabbed those items. So just by asking yourself those 6 questions, you can really come up with a lot more details to make your writing interesting. So now that we've talked about the first step of revising your writing, which is adding to it, it's your turn to practice this skill. So your assignment today is to choose your favorite pandemic journal entry. Pick one you really think that you can improve upon. Step 2, reread your entry, and while you're doing it, think arms, and specifically think adding. What can I add? What words, sentences, and details can I add to this entry to make it more interesting or exciting? And the last step, after rereading and sort of thinking about what you might want to add, is to use a blue colored pencil or a blue pen or even a blue crayon if that's all you have. Use a blue colored pencil to add words, sentences, and details to your writing. Now, the reason I would like for you to use blue is because you're going to be revising and editing your paper a lot, and you're going to use a different color for each step that you do. So by the end of this, I want to see a colorful paper with all of these revisions and edits that are very clear to me. So, if you have any questions about this assignment or what you should be doing or what revising means, feel free to rewatch this video or message your teacher on Canvas. They will be happy to help you, and good luck with the first step of revising.